Welcome to the show, everyone. Ready for another week of the craziest stories history has to offer. We dig deep into the wild side of history, the kind of stuff that makes you wonder if it really happened, and today is no exception. Share, rate, and follow the show for more captivating stories from the world of flash culture.
I think this one might just blow your mind.
I love a good challenge.
We're hitting the road and setting our time machine for July 1947. Destination, Roswell, New Mexico.
Roswell, I feel like I know where this is going. Aliens, right?
Yeah, you're already ahead of me. But there's always more to the story. These history books and uncovered sources we dug up, they go way beyond just aliens. We're talking about what really went down in the New Mexico desert, all the different theories, and why this one place, this one event, just won't let go of our imaginations.
Let's get into it then. We'll separate fact from fiction, look at the official stories, and dive into all those conspiracy theories. By the end of this historic road trip, you'll have the full story of Roswell and understand why it's still such a huge deal today.
Buckle up. We're going back to the summer of 1947. Picture this. The world's on edge. World War II just ended, but a whole new kind of conflict is brewing: the Cold War. The threat of nuclear war hung heavy in the air, and people were already spooked.
A recipe for paranoia.
Exactly. And then, just weeks before Roswell, pilot Kenneth Arnold reports seeing these mysterious flying saucers over Washington state. Boom. Suddenly, everyone's looking up, wondering what's out there. It was the perfect breeding ground for a story like Roswell to explode.
Enter a rancher, W. Mac Brazel. Early July, a big thunderstorm hits his ranch near Roswell, and when he goes out to check on things, he finds, well, something strange. Not your average storm debris.
It's not just broken branches and scattered leaves. We're talking lightweight metallic sticks, foil that people later said you could barely dent or burn, rubbery strips, and get this tape with these weird symbols on it, almost like hieroglyphics. Pretty wild, right?
So Brazel finds all this weird stuff. What does he do? Call the Air Force, the newspapers, the men in black?
Actually, he hesitates, doesn't jump to conclusions. It isn't until the flying saucer talk starts making the rounds that he puts two and two together. Then he reports it to the local sheriff, who in turn calls up Roswell Army Airfield RAAF.
I'm sensing a theme here. 1947. Everyone's a little on edge. And at RAAF, who gets assigned to this case of weird debris?
Enter Major Jesse Marcel, an intelligence officer at RAAF, not your average desk jockey. He heads out to Brazel's ranch, examines the debris, gathers even more of it, and brings it back to base. This is where things go from strange to hold on to your hats territory.
Okay, I'm holding on. Take it away.
July 8th, 1947. The RAAF Public Information Officer, Walter Hote, issues a press release. And it's not subtle. He announces that the Army has captured a flying disc. Not a weather balloon, not some experimental aircraft, a flying disc.
You can practically hear the record scratch across the globe.
Headlines explode worldwide. Flying saucer captured. It was an absolute sensation.
I'm guessing the other shoe drops.
Less than 24 hours later, the story does a complete 180. General Roger Ramey, a much bigger name in the military, holds a press conference all the way over in Fort Worth, Texas. He presents a very different set of debris. Clearly, pieces of a standard weather balloon with a radar reflector, that kite-like thing made of foil and balsa wood to make the balloon easier to track on radar. To drive the point home, they even photograph Major Marcel, the same guy who collected the original debris, examining these very mundane balloon parts. The official word. Just a weather balloon, nothing to see here, move along.
Oh, I bet people were not happy about that explanation. Going from alien tech to weather balloon in a day is quite the downgrade.
It caused major confusion and fueled a whole lot of skepticism. Why the dramatic announcement in the first place if it was just a balloon? Why involve a general for something so seemingly minor? It was a head-scratcher, to say the least. And that backpedaling, that sudden change in the story, well, it's a big part of why the Roswell legend lives on.
So let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Why did this story catch on so much? Why Roswell, and why in 1947?
You've got to remember the context. It was the beginning of the Cold War, the atomic age. The world had just seen the destructive power of the atom bomb. People were terrified of what might come next.
Not to mention Roswell itself wasn't just any town.
Right. The Roswell Army Airfield was home to the 509th Bomb Group, the only unit in the world at that time equipped with atomic bombs. So there was already a huge aura of secrecy surrounding the base. And then you add the flying saucer craze that Kenneth Arnold's sighting kicked off. And you've got people looking at the skies, wondering if we're alone in the universe and maybe a little afraid of what's out there.
So you've got a world on edge, a town full of secrets, and then boom, this news of a captured flying disc drops. I can see why people went wild.
It felt like confirmation that something big was happening, something the government wasn't telling us. And then that swift retraction that just it was just a weather balloon moment. Well, that just made people even more suspicious. It felt like a cover-up, a deliberate attempt to hide the truth.
It's the classic case of a denial that just makes the story more believable. So the story fades from the headlines, but those suspicions linger. Roswell becomes this symbol of government secrecy, a place where something extraordinary happened, but the truth is being kept under wraps.
And over the years, that simmering suspicion, combined with the never quite satisfying official weather balloon explanation, provided the perfect breeding ground for a whole bunch of different theories about what really happened at Roswell.
Let's dive into those theories then. Give us the rundown from the official to the out there.
Okay, first up, we have the initial explanation from July 1947, the weather balloon. Now, while some of the debris, especially that lightweight foil-like material, could conceivably have come from a weather balloon, it didn't explain everything. It felt like a convenient, overly simplistic explanation, especially when you consider that initial flying disc announcement. So it was a quick explanation, but for a lot of people, it just didn't cut it.
Weather balloon plausible, but not very satisfying. So what else did they come up with?
Fast forward to the 1990s. The U.S. Air Force declassifies some reports that offer a new, more detailed explanation. Project Mogul. This was a top-secret Cold War program that used high-altitude balloon trains. Not your everyday weather balloons. These were massive and carried sophisticated equipment, like radar reflectors and something called hydrophones, which were essentially super-sensitive microphones designed to pick up sound waves from really, really far away.
So basically, spy balloons designed to listen in on the Soviets.
You got it? They're trying to detect Soviet nuclear tests from way up in the atmosphere. What's really interesting is that one specific Mogul flight, flight number 4, launched from a place called Alamogordo, which isn't too far from Roswell, and it went missing around the same time and in the same general area where Brazil found all that strange debris.
So a missing spy balloon that matches the time and place of the Roswell incident, that's a pretty big coincidence.
And get this, the materials used in these Mogul balloons, stuff like foil, tape, balsa wood, and a type of rubber called neoprene, actually line up pretty well with what people describe finding at Roswell. And because those balloon trains were so long, with radar reflectors and other equipment attached, it explains why the debris was so spread out. So Project Mogul, while still debated, is a pretty solid evidence-based explanation, and it directly addresses a lot of the physical descriptions of the debris.
Okay, so we've got a plausible explanation, but that whole top secret aspect of Project Mogul also makes you wonder why the military didn't just come out and say that in 1947, why the whole weather balloon charade. It seems a little too casual for something that was supposed to be so hush-hush.
It's a good point. If Project Mogul was so sensitive, you'd think they'd have a better cover story than just weather balloon. It's one of those things that just doesn't quite add up and makes people question the official narrative, even with the evidence. But, it was the Cold War. Maybe they weren't thinking straight, or maybe they just figured a simple lie would be easier to manage than trying to explain a super-secret spy program to the public.
I guess that makes sense. But of course, the story doesn't end with Project Mogul. Now we're getting to the really juicy stuff.
Yeah.
The UFO crash theory.
All right, here we go. The idea that it wasn't a balloon at all, but an alien spacecraft that crashed near Roswell, really took off in the late 1970s, fueled in large part by a book published in 1980 called The Roswell Incident. The authors, Charles Berlitz and William L. Moore, claimed that the debris Brazil found was extraterrestrial, that the military recovered not just the wreckage, but possibly even alien bodies, and that the whole thing was covered up to prevent mass panic and protect national security.
That's quite a claim. What evidence do they have to back that up?
Well, they rely heavily on witness accounts, though a lot of these testimonies came out years, even decades, after the event. These witnesses describe materials with properties that sound pretty amazing, like super strong foil that couldn't be torn, lightweight beams with these strange, almost hieroglyphic symbols on them. Some even claim there was a second crash site with alien bodies. And of course, the initial flying disc press release gets brought up a lot as evidence that the military knew it wasn't just a balloon from the get-go. There are also stories about the military intimidating witnesses into keeping quiet, which just adds fuel to the fire.
So from a crash spaceship, we move into even wilder territory, alien bodies, secret government committees, the whole 9 yards.
Exactly. Some people claim to have seen humanoid corpses recovered from the crash site, stories about military personnel, and even a local undertaker encountering these beings. And then you have the infamous Alien autopsy film, which, even though it's mostly considered a hoax, The guy who made it still claims it was based on real footage he saw. And let's not forget the MJ-12 documents, which supposedly reveal a secret group created by President Truman to deal with the Roswell incident and other UFO events. But most experts believe these documents are fakes. So you have a lot of really interesting, even sensational claims, but the evidence is often shaky or disputed.
So we have Project Mogul, a real secret program that fits the time and place, and we have the UFO crash theory, which is heavy on the mystery and intrigue, but a little light on hard proof. What's the verdict? Which explanation holds more weight?
Project Mogul definitely has the advantage in terms of solid evidence. It explains a lot of the details about the debris and why the military might have been so secretive. On the other hand, the UFO accounts, while compelling, are often inconsistent, contradict each other, and many of them came out long after the event, making it hard to know what's real and what might be embellished or misremembered. You can't completely rule out every single UFO claim, but there's no smoking gun, no undeniable proof that an alien spacecraft crashed at Roswell. Plus, there's a lot of money to be made from the Roswell legend, which makes you wonder if some people might be, well, exaggerating things a bit. So while the UFO crash theory is more exciting, Project Mogul is the more likely explanation, at least based on the evidence we have. It's a classic truth is stranger than fiction kind of story, and I think that's why it still fascinates people. So let's talk about Roswell's legacy. How did this event shape our world, our culture? Roswell is like ground zero for modern ufology. Before Roswell, flying saucers were a bit of a novelty. After Roswell, the idea of crashed alien spaceships and government cover-ups became central to UFO lore. It turned Roswell from a little-known town into this global symbol of alien encounters.
You can't even say Roswell without people thinking about aliens.
You're right. It's everywhere in pop culture.
Yeah.
The X-Files, Independence Day, even Indiana Jones had a Roswell reference. It's woven into our stories, our movies, our TV shows. It's part of how we imagine the possibility of alien life.
And Roswell itself, I hear it's become a bit of a tourist trap for UFO enthusiasts.
That's an understatement. Roswell has fully embraced its alien fame. They've got the International UFO Museum and Research Center, alien-themed festivals. Even the streetlights are shaped like alien heads. Souvenir shops everywhere, all selling alien merchandise. It's become a big part of their economy, and for a lot of people, it's a place to connect with others who believe in the Roswell story.
So, whether you believe in aliens or not, there's no denying that Roswell has left its mark on our world.
But before we wrap up this historic road trip, let's dig into some of those intriguing details, the lesser-known aspects of the Roswell story.
One interesting tidbit is that Mac Brazel, the rancher who found the debris, apparently regretted ever reporting it. He said if he ever found anything like that again, he wouldn't say anything to avoid all the trouble it caused him. Can you imagine? Discovering something potentially world-changing and wishing you'd kept your mouth shut.
The weight of history, right?
Yeah.
And then there's that super strong foil Major Marcel described. As someone who's definitely not a scientist, I can't help but wonder, what could make a regular balloon, even a fancy spy balloon, seem so indestructible to the average person?
You'd be surprised how strong some modern materials can be. They use some pretty advanced plastics and metallic foils in high-altitude balloons, and to someone who's used to regular household foil, it would seem incredibly strong. It's all about the material science, the way things are designed. What seems like alien tech could just be really good engineering. That makes sense. It's all about perspective. And what about those strange symbols? Those really captured people's imaginations.
Yeah, Major Marcel said that foil-like material was so tough you could crumple it up and it would unfold perfectly, no wrinkles. And others talked about finding I-beams with these purple, almost hieroglyphic symbols on them. Of course, skeptics say these descriptions could match materials used in radar reflectors or even regular weather balloons. Maybe memories got a bit fuzzy over time or details got mixed up. Those symbols might have just been markings on the tape used to hold the balloon together. It's hard to say for sure.
And Major Marcel wasn't the only one with an interesting story to tell.
Right. You have guys like Sergeant Melvin Brown and a firefighter named Dan Dwyer, who supposedly saw a second crash site with debris and even bodies. But their stories came out later, and not everyone believes them. It's one of those things that's really hard to verify.
What about the local sheriff who was involved in the initial investigation?
Sheriff George Wilcox, the one who first contacted RAAF, well, his family later said he was pressured to keep quiet about what he knew, even threatened. It just adds another layer of mystery to the whole thing.
And going back to that very first news release, that sent the world into a frenzy.
Yeah, that first AP report quoted Walter Hott, the RAAF public information officer, saying, "The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday.
That's pretty definitive, right? Not, we think we might have, or it could be, but straight up, it's real. That's the kind of statement that really sticks with people, especially those who believe something extraordinary happened at Roswell.
So here we are at the end of our historic road trip to Roswell. We've looked at the facts, the theories, the legacy, the whole shebang. What are your final thoughts?
Whether you lean towards the well-documented Project Mogul explanation, a simple mistake blown out of proportion, or something truly out of this world, the story of Roswell shows us how easily an event can become a legend, how our hopes and fears shape the way we see the world, and how much we crave answers to the big questions like, are we alone? It's a story that reminds us that sometimes the truth is elusive, that history is messy, and that the human imagination is incredibly powerful. What parts of the Roswell story stand out to you? What other historical mysteries make you wonder what really happened? We encourage you to keep exploring, keep asking questions, and come to your own conclusions. Thanks for joining us on this wild ride through history.